was started. We're going to go through Earth. There we go, 1970. What came out of Earth Day?
I was still alive.
What came out because of Earth Day? EPA.
Clean Water Act.
Clean Water Act. Clean Air Act. Endangered Species Act. And under what administration did this all happen? Does anybody know?
Richard Nixon. Republican. Richard Nixon.
Right. So this is, I think it's interesting when you go back and you look at the history. I was telling Michael yesterday, we were talking about it, and I said, you know, this really should not be about parties and politics. This should be about people and about sustainability and about our environment. And it is about jobs. I don't know how we've come under attack that we can't create jobs sustainably, because we most certainly can. And it most certainly makes more sense to create jobs in using 21st century technology where we're not going to run out of these jobs. You talk about things like Marcellus Shale, about fossil fuels, and these are things that we're not going to have forever. So let's invest and do it wisely. We're a very innovative country. And it's sad to see that all these other countries are beating us out and really investing in their future, in their communities. Today we are here on Earth Day, and there's 5 other offices at DEP where they're holding similar events, and we are here asking for 5 demands. The first demand that we're asking is we want Tom Corbett to appoint an environmental expert to head up DEP. We do not feel that right now we have someone in charge after Michael Krancer stepped down that really has the expertise needed to run the Department of Environmental Protection. So that's one of our demands. The next one, we want a moratorium placed. We want a moratorium on permits we want them for the gas wells, the compressor stations, the pipelines, water withdrawals, coal mines, anything related to fossil fuel. Coal, exactly. We also want no more toxic secrets in our state. And this goes to the sweet codes that were being put on water samples when people were having samples drawn on their water that thought they were impacted with the Marcellus Shale. And what was going on was beyond ethical, and people are sick, and they should have been given these results. I will say I have been all over this state, every single corner of the state where they're doing this, and there is not one community that I can say has been a model of economic success or any type of success. There is health problems everywhere I've been. There's water contamination issues everywhere I've been. And I see a lot of folks that are actually, we have some here today, that have actually uprooted and left their homes and moved into other areas because of what's going on in this state. It's funny that things that we have been given that make so much sense to invest in and have sustained our communities, things like tourism in these areas where they're coming into and drilling, farming, agriculture. With the drilling coming in, we are losing our sustainable, God-given things that will always keep us in jobs and keep us afloat. It's going to be bust and boom. That's what we've seen with coal. We're already seeing it in the communities now, where people have built hotels and they expected traffic to come in. The traffic's leaving. The hotels are empty. People who used to come and enjoy the tourist attractions are not coming. They don't want to see the noise. They had problems getting rooms. Now they're not going back. These are things that we're smarter than this. And we need need to demand that our leadership be smarter than this.
Yeah. True.
We need to take the money out of the politics.
Right.
We will never, ever have true democracy as long as it's up for sale. And I'm very sad to say that our state has been put up for sale. And sold. And sold. Provide justice for those that are harmed. I know so many families in this state that are harmed. Carol French in Bradford County has a dairy. Her daughter had to actually move from their home because of the health problems they were having. Her water comes out and it looks like jellied milk. Her cows have rashes. The milk goes into our food system. No one is finding anything. You know why? No one is looking. Department of Ag, we need you looking into our food system. You know, Carol told me the last time I saw her that they have been doing their own self-testing at home. When the cows have rashes, they get the rashes. So they have stopped drinking the milk from their cows in an effort to try to figure out what's happening. When they stop drinking the milk, the rashes go away. Now, it's sad that this is the kind of research we have going on in our state. Carol told me she is at the point, because she has been told not to talk about this, where she's bringing her water in mason jars to farmers markets and asking people, do you drink milk? This is what my cows drink. Does this worry you? Mary McConnell in Bedford County, one of the first people that I had met because her story touched me so much. Here is a widow who lived 4 months 24/7 with a gas mask in her house because she went to the emergency room 3 different times. Each time the emergency room doctors told her, do not go back into your home. You can't go back there. She said, Maria, where am I going to live? I can't stay at the White House and I can't afford a hotel every night. So she called soldiers who had served in Afghanistan to find out what was the best type of gas mask. And I think about my mother now, who is a widow. And I think if that was my mother, the earth would be shaking. And the earth should be shaking. Is this how we're treating our widows in PA? This is outrageous. Joe Bijak, Linda, David Headley, on their property, Fayette County. This last time I was up there, I came home and I walked around my house for 2 days and I said, I can't believe this is the United States of America. Because when I was up there, on their farm that has had 4 leaking wells, a blowout to the stream, impoundment pond where the soil was reading with radiation in 2 crates that sat there for over a month leaking because no landfill would take it because it was hot. She has a 6-year-old. She has a teenager. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. When I went there, there was security on her farm. Louisiana plates. Mind it, we live in Pennsylvania. The man was armed, had a gun on his side, a gun. Again, she has 2 children. This security was on her property for 24/7. 4 months. 4 months. When I had gone there, Linda had a she had a hand meter to measure decimals. She wanted to show me that they had an ordinance where their township had 9.1 and it was reading 9.7. Her and I walked up. We were not touching the equipment. The security guard was in the car, could see what we were doing, and came up to us. And young guy, pretty built, put his arms like this and said, "Back away from the equipment." And I looked, and he said it again, "Back away from the equipment. We're here to protect the equipment." And I said, "What country do we live in?" These are not isolated stories. We can talk about Joe Bezak, who was arrested and was in jail all weekend, 70-some years old, farmer, raises black Angus on his farm, and he's not allowed to talk to the drillers. He's been arrested. The Headleys have been taken in. My son one night called me when I come in the door. I was at a meeting with another group, and 11:30 at night, he said, Mommy, you gotta call Mary Grace. The cops have their guns pulled out on the farmers." I'm saying, "What's going on here? This is insane." They needed a lawyer for the next day because 5 cop cars had pulled on their property. 10 police got out with weapons, and they pulled the weapons out on everyone and marched them to the street, including a minor.
And no reporters to catch them.
No. Now, he's no longer allowed to talk to these people as part of the court order. So, they come, they're taking waste that's coming out from the mining, and they're using this to put on his fields where his black Angus graze. And he said no, and he called DEP, and DEP did come out. And they made him stop. 2 weeks later, it happened again. He told them, "Get the hell off my property." Well, you know what happened? The police came and arrested him because he's not allowed to talk to them. Folks, I am not making these stories up. When I talk about Kim McAvoy with her 3-year-old daughter, Skylar.
So you'll find out.
Kim McAvoy with her 3-year-old daughter, who she had to pull Skylar in a wagon 20 minutes up the street so her child could bathe in a cabin that had clean water. This is the United States? What are we doing? What are we thinking? It's got to stop. It's got to stop. And they have money. So the only way to stop it is for us to talk to your neighbor. Get out of your comfort zones. Don't speak to the choir. Go to a school board meeting. This is what we need to do. Because people don't understand that this is happening. And it's happening in every community where they're doing this. I can tell you, I've seen it with my own eyes. The last thing that we're asking for is we want investment in renewable energy, in true renewable energy. We want solar. We want wind.
No, not wind. It's killing all of the birds. The habitat is destroying our forests as much as the gas.
And
solar.
We want solar, and I understand they are trying to work on some new technologies with the wind, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the offshore wind in Maryland approved.
Yeah.
Offshore, yes, that's not here.
Yeah. So I mean, with every energy, there's going to be some kind of give and take.
Not solar.
But what's going on here with the shale? It's not worth the exchange. It's not worth the exchange. I think about people like Ron Gulla. And Ron Gulla was the second well drilled in PA. He's in Hickory, PA. He was in Hickory. before his farm got contaminated and had to leave. Beautiful farm he was restoring. This gentleman was the first one to open his mouth and to come out and speak. And he was mocked. He was shouted down by the industry. They tried to discredit him at every level. But you know what? The truth is coming out. And people are understanding. He was telling the truth all along. As a matter of fact, before here this morning, I made a phone call to Ron to tell Ron thank you. Because if it wasn't for people like him, Ron doesn't work for a nonprofit. Ron has a regular full-time job. Every day for the past, I don't know how many years, he has come out. He has taken reporters, taken EPA, taken, just educating. He came up multiple times to do forums here in Harrisburg with us. And it's challenging, you know, and it's frustrating. And he'll say, I'm done, I can't do it, because emotionally, when you see family after family after family after family sick, and you see the direction is not changing, you see shenanigans like we have going on now, where Michael Crancer had to step down. Water results are being hidden. And we ask why. So with that, that's our message for Earth Day. Let's keep talking. Let's keep influencing our neighbors. We have a very special set of guests here today. I was so happy. All I've been getting is phone calls all week saying, how did you get Jonathan? How did you get Jonathan? I said, Jonathan called. Jonathan Deal and his wife Sharon is over here. Sharon's over here. There's something called the Goldman Environmental Prize, which is the highest environmental honor you can receive. And here's another story that someone who put everything on hold to take this cause on. Jonathan and his wife are from South Africa, and they put their lives on hold, and this is what they've been doing. And they have been one of the winners of the Goldman Environmental Prize. So we are very blessed and pleased to have them with us, and we would really like to hear from them. I know they're here still on their mission. They told me they're going around for a couple weeks. They'll be in New York tomorrow. So we thank them for what they are doing, because we're all connected. You know, it doesn't matter if you're in the same community, the same state, the same country. We're all connected. The water is all connected. This is global. So a hand for Jonathan and his wife. Thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks very much, and hello to everybody. Maria, I have to congratulate you on your passion and on the grasp that you've got on all of the issues, and they're exactly the same issues that we deal with in South Africa. We don't, or that we would potentially deal with. We do have an opportunity to keep them out of South Africa, but it's very difficult. Shell is the one that's leading the charge there. They have taken it upon themselves to market shale gas to the South African government and to the South African people, and they have made some really good friends in the government for a number of years before the public found out about shale gas. And so we are battling that. They have applied for exploration licenses. Just them alone, over 90,000 square kilometers, or about 60,000 square miles. There are other companies involved as well. One of them is Falcon Oil and Gas, who has sold half of their holding in South Africa to Chevron. So we've got the big American companies there too, and they don't have their licenses to explore yet, and we've held them away for 2 and a bit years. And the latest news from last week was that the attorneys for Chevron said that they don't, because of the environmental backlash, they don't expect to see exploration licenses in 2013, which was very good news. But they're not going to go away easily, and we're facing a long and an expensive court battle, and very much the same challenges that you're facing here. And Maria said it's a global issue. It absolutely is global, and since I've been in the United States, I've particularly realized that if communities around the world, from Cape Town to Harrisburg to Bradford to Australia, don't stand up and coordinate things together and use that cumulative power and the cumulative media and the consolidated media power, I think we're in for a hike. There are two things that get the attention of the politicians, and one is the politicians and the companies, and it's media attention and bad reputation.
Yes. Yeah.
And the soft underbelly of the companies like Shell, who are ostensibly very concerned about their reputations globally. The only way to get them is to consolidate things. So if there's an accident on a site in Bradford, we know about it in Cape Town, and we need to react to it. And the globalization of it is such that we have a town in the Northern Cape in South Africa, which is one of the areas that is lined up for fracking, and it's called Williston. And there's a town in North Dakota called Williston. And I draw a parallel between the two of them, because the one in North Dakota is already reaping the negative rewards and seeing the boom to bust cycle that is going to happen to them in Williston. And the one in the Northern Cape is facing a decision by its government which could allow that same type of thing to happen. And I have economists on record in the last 3 weeks in South Africa, a so-called well-studied economist, admitting to me that the small towns of the Karoo could very well become ghost towns after the boom to bust cycle has come. So you have a small functioning community that has been sustainable for generations and generations. Boom to bust, and it needs behind construction. And after that, even this economist admitted that towns like that have got a chance of becoming a ghost town. So my encouragement to you is to try and connect with those global communities. We did a flag swapping ceremony in DC on Thursday evening, and Darcy O'Callaghan, who's the International Director of Food and Water Watch, accepted a South African flag from me. She accepted it on behalf of an arrangement that I had made with Americans Against Fracking, and I gave her, and she gave me an American flag. And to me that was the start of a global cooperation on it. We've drafted a fairly simple statement. I don't know if I copied it to you. Yes. I did. Because I've seen coalitions against shale gas mining in Europe go in the wrong way, because a whole group of people from different organizations will get together and try and form a new organization with a new charter and new aims and ideals, and unfortunately with organizations like Damascus Citizens, for instance, or anybody that's been established for years and years, you can't just throw your organization in with another larger one. There's PR issues, there's charter issues, there's all sorts of things. But what there can be is a global statement of cooperation and allegiance against the technology of shale gas mining, and it can fit everybody. And I urge you to try and get that around. I'm here for another 3 weeks, and I'm coming back again in August to do a course on environmental economics at Stanford. And we'll probably spend some more time there. But I intend to take back this footage, and some of the stuff that you said today is going to find itself onto YouTube. It's going to find itself into South African media. It's going to find itself possibly even into court records, because it's not hearsay. I was here, heard you say it, got it on film, and I'm going to have it repeated. And those questions like, what are we doing in America? And actually, in the 2 or 3 addresses that I gave in San Francisco and Washington last week, I made the point, as far as I'm concerned, that the future of young Americans is being traded for short-term gains for the oil and gas industry. And it is an economic problem, and people do need jobs. And there are depressed communities. I've driven through communities in the last 2 days where there is nothing going on. And sometimes you can't blame those people. Somebody comes along and says we need somebody to work on the road, we need cabins built, or we need plumbing, or we need ditches dug, or we need trucks driven. You can't blame them for taking the jobs. But what I've also said to the people that own ground, who are parents and grandparents, if you're going to take what the landman is offering you and you're going to take that lease, remember that you need to write off your land. You need to forget about it, because you will live nicely, possibly for 2 or 3 years. You'll buy some new cars and go on holiday, or maybe move to another state. But that piece of ground is going to be fracked. You can write it off. Your family will not enjoy it ever again, and the people that live next door to it and above and below it will also not enjoy it. And nobody that I can think of that in their right mind will ever make an offer to buy a piece of land that has been fracked. So that's a message. It's just listening to this morning, it was heartbreaking listening to the stories, and I'm going to be meeting some of those people and meeting others. I'm going from here to Albany. I'm going the next day to meet Professor Ingraffia at Cornell, and the day on the 26th I'm going to DC to actually go and testify at a Senate subcommittee on energy, and then I'm going to Colorado to Clearwater and Garfield and Longmont, where they've had some success, and then down to Texas and West Virginia. So it's 24/7, literally 24/7. We do get to sleep at night, but yeah, that's, you know, and it's expensive. It's very expensive to be here, coming from a country where the currency is so much weaker than yours. So that's why I maximize every day. There's just no opportunity for a day off or to take time. It's not a sightseeing tour. This is a beautiful country. I visited it on a number of occasions before. It's absolutely brilliant, and the American people have got a lot of pride about their flag and their country. And I just hope that can be unified. But I can tell you something, that as we all know, as people that have an environmental viewpoint, we don't mind whether we lose friends if we are making a contribution and leaving a legacy for the future. Because one thing that's going to happen is that when the reckoning is done and this shale gas is finished and the destruction is left behind it, then those who backed it and those who pushed the country in that direction will have to stand up and be counted. And it's a sad day, and I hope that, and today I'm not celebrating Earth Day, I'm observing Earth Day, because it's not a celebration. There's nothing to celebrate about what governments and the oil and gas industry around the world is doing to the world. And they just absolutely, I'm not a long-standing environmentalist. I've been in this for 2.5 years, and it's just shocked me how the companies can just carry on. And, you know, clearly they're not interested in the sun, they're not interested in the wind, because they can't own the resource. They want to own the resource.
Exactly.
And they're going for more extreme energy, which is what we've seen. Shale gas is extreme energy. It's deep, they've got to frack it, there's poisons, there's the above ground damage. They'll go to the Arctic. Nothing is sacred to these people. And they've left the Arctic after 3 years with their tail between their legs, because they've been finally told by nature that actually we're not going to, this is nature and I'm not going to let you drill here. We're going to sink your rigs. We're going to make it difficult for you. But they wouldn't listen to the environmentalists. And now the government, I believe, is cancelling the drilling permits in the Arctic. And if you can get the drilling permits cancelled in the Arctic after Shell has spent $3 billion there, not even getting to start drilling, I think you can do something there too. But I'm up for the fight. I think that the internet makes us a global community, and it's as good as if we're in the room next door. But I've had so many people. We had the function in San Francisco, attracted over 3,500 people at the San Francisco Opera House.
Wow.
And they took us over the road to the City Hall afterwards, and I stood for 3 hours, and 2,000 people came through. And everyone greeted me, and some had stories to share, and others just wanted to say congratulations or whatever. And in DC, there was a function for 900 people. So one can get the numbers.
Yeah.
They are out there, but the coordination is critical. I must applaud applaud the work that you're all doing, and just encourage you to carry on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And don't let America's future for the young Americans be sold out to the oil and gas industry.
Right.
You've got to attack that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, speaking of young Americans, this is my young pride here, our young pride. This is our son Michael. Michael grew up, it's funny because he was talking and he'll say he grew up in an activist house, and I was not an activist either until something came to my community. In Harrisburg, although we are not specifically on top of the shale now, we will be getting, I know in my community, Williams is a mile up the street. So we will be getting pipeline, we will be getting underground gas storage, we will be getting compressor stations. So even though you're not on it, you know, the thing that if it's not in your backyard, it's in your backyard. Whether you're a taxpayer, it's in there. But I asked Michael to just talk just a little bit to represent. I kept him out of school today because I think this is important. I think it's important to understand that this generation is going to be left with whatever we give them. So Michael, if you wouldn't mind real quick, and then we're going to go through our speakers.
We're only going to take a couple minutes because I'm really short. Happy Earth Day, everyone. All my life I've grown up in a family of activists, and I consider myself one. It's definitely different growing up in a family that's aware of what's going on in the environment. And I've had to go to protests and speak and have glass jars of pig manure waiting to be tested in my living room.
True story.
But to be honest, I enjoy it. I've seen the damage that fossil fuels can cause to the environment at a local level, and I've also seen the benefits of using renewable energy. And yes, I'm missing school today, but it's for a good cause. The decisions that your generation makes today will affect my life in the near future, which is why I'm here speaking, because I care about my future. I care about my environment, and I even care about my economy. The economy and environment sort of go hand in hand, though, because the best environmental policy is the best economic policy. What does this mean? Right now, all of you are paying for the generation before you. All of their mistakes in the ways they have made money but have also harmed the environment are your responsibility now. And we cannot continue this vicious cycle, because if we do, our economy will never improve. The taxpayers are held responsible for cleaning up the mistakes of the previous generation. Please, please don't give me that responsibility. Fix it now and switch to renewable energy. It's simple for the fossil fuel industry to show profit on paper, but ultimately, we are going to pay for their profit in the environmental cleanup and for public health. This joyride must stop. Today is Earth Day, so let's begin helping here. Remember, good environmental policy is always the best economic policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. And with that, we have a lot of people here that we ultimately, it's amazing because Facebook, it just connects us from everywhere and every country, and boy, I tell you, no wonder they're trying to pass these laws. Our next speaker is Steve Todd. Steve, I have a lot of respect for, and I'm not sure what he's going to say, but true story, when I first met Steve, it was on Facebook, and I always go into like the About Me pages and look at that, and I saw works at Department of Environmental Protection. And I said, oh my God, they're following me. So this is a true story. I Googled Steve, and I found letters to the editor about directions and policy, and I said, oh my God, how does he still have a job there? Because
Didn't for much longer.
Steve is, I tell you what, there are so many good people that we have in the Department of Environmental Protection. There are, the morale, I'm sorry, has never been lower because their hands are being tied. Steve's not the only one from DEP that I've known that has actually left because of what's going on. So Steve's running for, I have to say this too, I got to give him a plug. Steve is running for Supervisor of Derry Township.
That's correct.
And I'll let Steve go in from there. He is left in. He is a civil engineer, and him and his wife are doing their own business now. So,
That's right.
Steve Todd.
All right, thank you. Happy Earth Day, everybody. Maria already covered pretty much my introduction. She knows who I am better than I do, thanks to Facebook. I am a civil engineer, still a civil practicing engineer. I used to be an engineer here at DEP, as she did say. I'm also a former wastewater treatment plant operator, and I sit on the board of the stewards of the Lower Susquehanna, which advises and helps out the Lower Susquehanna River people, who I know many of you are fans of. I'm not here today in that capacity, though. I do not speak for them with what I'm about to say. When Maria asked me to say a few words, I just said, hey, let me just take the 5 demands that we have here today for our employees at DEP and elaborate on them. Well, the first thing Maria did was covered all of those, so pretty much I have nothing to say and goodbye. I'll just blow through this so we don't have to go through it all again, because I have a little bit of different take on stuff that she had to say. Our broad coalition, that's all of us here today, asked the Governor Corbett appoint an environmental expert without industry ties as the DEP Secretary. Today, I happen to know the gentleman who is the acting DEP Secretary because he's the chairman of our township supervisors in Derry Township. His name's Chris Abruzzo. He's a very capable man, very intelligent man. He has lots of skills in this world. He spent a lot of time as a drug prosecutor. He was a he was a deputy chief of staff for Tom Corbett before stepping down to be the Secretary of DEP. But one thing I know he doesn't have is 1 minute experience in environmental protection. I'm an environmental expert because that's what I do for a living. If you put me in charge of a drug policy task force, it would be very foolish of you to pay me to do that, because I really wouldn't have any background. We ask that the Governor Corbett please appoint someone to run this entire 4,000 employees that oversee our 12 million citizens, water, air, radiation, everything. Someone with no experience. It prompted former Secretary John Hanger to announce the very next day after Chris was appointed, quote, the resignation of DEP Secretary Crancer reveals a crucial state agency in crisis. His interim replacement, Chris Abruzzo, has, still quoting former Secretary John Hanger, absolutely no environmental background and is completely unqualified for this position. You would think John Hanger would know what the qualifications are, regardless of what the out of his term of service. I happen to be a friend of his and I have respect for him, even though we don't see eye to eye on every environmental issue. Second thing that Maria talked about, our coalition asked that a moratorium be placed on permits for basically, she listed them all, but basically the dirty energy industries. So we all know what they are. We've been living with them forever. Why do we want this little group does? No, because we of Pennsylvania live, eat, drink here. Why do I say that? Well, I just opened up the Allentown Morning Call on April 19th here a couple days ago. They were out of their own pocket commissioned a McCall-Mullenberg college poll, and here's what the college poll found about your fellows when they asked your fellow citizens about fracking. 42% said fracking poses both major or moderate environmental risk. 42%. You might make the mistake I initially did and say, oh, that means 58% are in favor of it. No, it does not. Only 9% of your neighbors and your fellow taxpayers think fracking poses no risk. Only 9%.
Wow.
52%, there's majority, say it's harmful to your water supply, quote unquote. And again, does that mean 48% think it's not harmful? No, that's not what it means. 28% aren't sure it's harmful. So only 20%, only 1 in 5 of us think it is not harmful for our water supply. That is not the spin that I'm giving about this fracking miracle that's taking our state. That's not what I hear every day about, oh, it doesn't hurt anything and everybody's on board with this. No, when a college poll asked impartially, only 1 in 5 of us think it doesn't hurt our water. 71% of the state, 71% of your neighbors want stronger regulations against fracking. 71. I mean, even a landslide person running for office, a landslide win is like 60%. 71% to agree on anything in America is pretty much a lot.
Right.
Too many of us have these legitimate concerns, and according to marcellusgas.org, so I picked an industry site, permit information that was updated just a few days ago, there are 12,082 unconventional wells currently permitted in PA. How many do we need? They're not all operating, but there's 12,082 people that hold the paper that says they can come in here tomorrow and say, move out of the way, I'm tapping a well. I have all the paperwork. How many do we need? Do we need 15,000? Do we need 20,000? How many wells is enough in our beautiful Commonwealth here?
Right.
Given those facts, I think that we've already taken on enough risk. We have the capacity for only so much risk. Nothing is risk-free. As we pointed out, someone brought up wind, someone else was not a fan of wind. Everything has risk, but we, the people, are getting dumped on with these risks, whether they are from these concentrated animal feeding operations, whether they're from fracking. Just every day we're asked to take on more and more risk, and for what? For what? Some promise of some jobs that, I don't know. I've been personally, before I started my own company, as Maria said, I was laid off 2 times in the last 6 years. So where's all these great jobs? And I'm in a field that supposedly has lots of benefits. Civil engineers are supposedly, oh, we can't find enough of them.
Right.
Civil engineering firms are closing every day. And I know that because these are my peers and my friends, my co-workers are closing their shops every day. Lots of them are getting lots of great jobs with fracking, but lots of them are not. Our coalition also asked that no more toxic secrets and full disclosure water tests from studies from DEP. We've already been through, and Maria went in a lot more detail than me because she knows a lot more about that part of it. Basically, DEP was testing people's water. He said, hey, I think I have problems. Come test the water, or I'll test the water, or somebody will test the water, and it gets taken to the labs, and what comes out is a report that says, see, there's nothing wrong here. You guys are all nuts.